Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now this is going to be another amplifier review. Coming thick and fast at the moment. If you've seen previous videos, you'll probably know now that I like amplifiers to be unfussy. No multifunction controls, no fancy casework, not particularly high powered, because generally if manufacturers are pushing up the power figures, then they're not really concentrating on sound quality. They're just trying to get the headline figures and trying to get the specifications looking good. Because there is a market for, there's people who just look at specifications. If it's people who actually just want to sit and listen to amplifiers, then you want something simple. You want something that's not, not gimmicky in any respect, particularly just a good solid design. Which is why I've kind of almost ignored what's to my right here, because it's high powered. It's got a fancy front panel. It's got multifunction controls on the front. It's got a built-in DAC. It's got, it's got a little light that lets you change the front panel to different colours. It's all I sort of, I wouldn't say not hate, but all I tend to be wary of in amplifier design. I mean, Atoll as a company, I should have known better. Atoll as a company, everything I've heard from Atoll has been really good. Little MD100 CD player, the CD100, the full width one, the 200, phenomenal. The little amplifiers, the IN100 and the 200, which are both brilliant and offer a really good alternative to everything else that's out there at the moment. A good alternative to Riga and exposure and everything. Very, very capable, very well made. But I must admit, this is the 400SE, and I did wonder, looking at the specifications and the design of it in the brochures, I thought this is surely just a flagship model. It's just there to look pretty and say, look, we've got an amplifier at £4,500, and it'll, it's just to bolster the rest of the range. It's probably not that capable. It's probably not, particularly much better, because you get that in ranges. You tend to find that all the really good value for money gems are further down the range. Usually, the top spec stuff is just there to look pretty and say we've arrived and we've done something expensive. I was totally wrong about this. I was totally wrong about it. I'll talk about that a bit more at the end of the video. First, I want to look at the features and socketry on the back, the usual sort of thing. Just we'll have a look at the front panel, have a look at the back panel. I'm going to take the lid off. If I can find the Allen key, that lid's coming off. I'm going to have a look inside, because a few people quite enjoy the exposure one. Partly because it's amazing inside. I've seen pictures, and how on earth they've crammed all that in there, I don't know. It's dual mono construction. The transformer on it is pretty much as big as that whopping great exposure thing. That's going to be quite good. So we'll do that. So I'll turn the camera around and we'll have a proper look around the front panel, and I'll show you all the operations and everything. Okay, so front panel. We've got a very thick sort of brushed aluminium front on there. Obviously do silver and black. Still got a little sort of swooping sort of routed out bit there that you get on all the range, but it's a much more curved shape, this. And even the heat sinks at the side are sort of swoop back in a sort of a diminishing curve towards the back. Apparently apart from dissipating heat, this is also supposed to be very dead. Whether it is, good question. It's supposed to be sort of low resonance, but I don't know. I don't know whether that's sort of been achieved or not, but looks nice. It's got quite a nice, it's sort of fancy, but not too fancy, I suppose. Let's give it that, really. Control-wise, beautifully sort of knurled sort of controls on it. Press for on, we get the little nice blue lights here. So this control is then, it's on, off, and also input select, so you can run through inputs. On the right we've got volume control, but also it's a function switch, so you've got balance control light, which interestingly lets you change to red, or to lilac, or to knock it off altogether. I'm quite liking the blue, so I'll stay on the blue. So yeah, that's it. I mean, it's actually quite easy to use, to be fair. I mean, I've sort of come across these multifunction controls before and completely hated them. These are quite nice, quite very positive action and everything. So I think it kind of gets away with it, to be fair. I don't think it's quite as horrific as some sort of things I've come across before. Anyway, let's have a look at the back panel. I'll see what's going on there, look at the inputs and everything. On the back panel, quite a lot of inputs actually. We've got auxiliary, which also, I think that would also double as the phono input if you opt for the input phono input card. I've got CD tuner, DVD, then a taping out. Obviously, I said this before, output. People tend not to be using tapes nowadays, but you can if you've got one, you can use it, or you can use the output for a headphone amp or things like stacks. Need things like that. We've got bypass, which is quite useful for AV, so it lets you sort of use the power amp from another preamp, and then 2 preamp outs, so you can run another power amp or even another 2 power amps if you wanted to, which is interesting. We've also got XLR. Said this before, I've never been totally convinced by XLR, but it can sound a lot better, but generally I prefer phono, and I know people won't agree with me, but that's just what I found. Really nice on here, really nice binding post sockets on the back and 4mm socket on the back. I think these are WBT. I think it certainly look like it. Really solid. I mean, plugging in the cables into there, it just feels so well engineered and sort of a nice sort of snug fit in there. Standard IEC, and there's an on-off switch, sort of overall on-off switch on the back there. That's it really. Let's. I've got to find an Allen key and take the lid off. Yeah, so we've got the lid off. First thing you notice, massive transformer. Probably not quite as big as the one in the exposures, but probably certainly on the bigger side for an integrated amplifier. I don't think I've seen many that have been approaching that size-wise. Completely dual monode, left-right channels, big bank of output transistors down the side, outside at 8 per side. I think these are MOSFET, I think. Generally, sort of historically, MOSFET was never particularly well regarded, but they seem to have sorted things out with them nowadays. Tended to be very, very high powered and very efficient, but a little bit shrill sounding sometimes. These do not sound like that at all. This amplifier does not sound shrill in any means at all. It's very refined. Quite substantial caps there. I think was it 100,000 or near enough 100,000 microfarads of capacitance on it or something. I can't, whatever that means. But yeah, it's quite neat in there, which is usually a good sign. There's no, multiple boards or anything like that. It just seems to be a fairly straightforward circuit. Speaker cables, these are WBTs actually, looking at them. Silver wired to the board, so there's attention to detail going on. So anyway, yeah, that's the internals of it. So if you're into this sort of thing, anyway, yeah, let's turn the camera around and let's have a chat about what it sounds like, because that's probably why we're here. So what did I think of it? Well, typically, Atoll's done it again. That's all I can say. Every product from Atoll I've heard has sort of exceeded expectation. But the greatest of all is the IN400, because my expectations were much lower because of the spec and the look and the features and all this sort of thing. I'm getting a bit sort of old and prejudiced, I think, against these sort of things. It's not new technology. Don't like it. But it works really well. It's functionally very nice to use. Yes, it's high powered, but it doesn't have that sort of stressed sound that a lot of high power amps have. The benefit is it drives anything you would ever want to throw at it, really. Which, like things like your Sugdens or whatever else, you have to pick and choose a little bit with them. You can't just throw any pair of speakers on. Whereas with this, you can. It's very much like the big Riga amps in that respect, like the Osiris and the Athos. It's got an exceptional clarity of sound, which I don't think I've come across in an integrated amplifier this side of things like Accuphase, and can't actually think of many other things. Some of the really fancy Luxman valve integrators and things you can get, that's real exceptional clarity that you get. It's certainly, like I say, certainly clearer than things like your Sugdens and your Exposures and your Rigas, but what's interesting is that image-wise, you'll find the musician is standing there and he's completely, the actual texture of the instrument and the scale of everything is correct, but the actual soundstage is quite constricted. It's almost not quite two-dimensional. It's not two-dimensional in the way that old like Lin-Nain systems used to be, where everything was crystal clear, but it was all across a single plane. There's a bit more depth to it than that, but it's not like a Sugden where you get this all-enveloping big soundstage and you feel like you can almost walk into it. It doesn't do that. But it suits different people, I think. I think if you're looking for the ultimate in definition, then it's here, really. If you want something that will drive any sort of speakers, be really, really clear and really, musically nice in that respect, involving and foot tapping and all the usual things that you want for an amp, it's here. It's the Atoll IN400. It's superb in that respect. If you do want a bigger, warmer, sort of all-enveloping thing, then it's your big Riegas and your Sugdens and whatever else. So it's got its own little niche of sort of sound quality. It isn't better or worse, I don't think, than a lot of things at that sort of money. It's got its own sort of footprint, its own signature, and I think it's amazing. I could easily live with one. I think it could almost be the last amplifier anybody would buy. Once you got one of these, where would you go? I don't quite follow it. It'd be interesting to hear the pre-powers, because I haven't heard them yet, because they do some quite major pre-powers as well. It's made me somewhat more interested in hearing those, really. And just in case you wondered, there's no sort of heritage with Atoll. They have just had a 25th anniversary, actually. I think they're 26 years now. So they've been around a while. They've just not really been in the UK very much. It's only recently that there's been a really good UK importer for them. So they're doing really well. I've actually done particularly well with Atoll, particularly CD players, weirdly. I do loads of the CD players. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to give a like and a subscribe. Yeah, subscriptions are motoring on somewhat at the moment. I think 7,500. I've not looked recently. But thanks for everything. Yeah, thanks for watching the channel. I'll see you in a future video. Thank you.